Hello. For those of you that don't already know me, my name is John Nordberg. I'm kind of an unusual person. I love physics, and I've made a number of major breakthroughs in physics and in technology. My two biggest breakthroughs in physics are I have solved the mystery of time and created a working grand unification theory. Also, I've engineered and patented a new type of fusion energy power plant, an invention that I believe will be the solution to clean energy and a bunch of other significant problems that the world faces. Right now, I've begun the process of obtaining millions of dollars to fund my fusion research and development lab. Thus, a lot of people will want to know a little bit about me. First, I'm 55 years old. This is a photo of me from 51 years ago, from the Christmas of 1965. That is me on the right with a brother and a sister. I was 4.5 years old. That Christmas, our presents included Lincoln logs, an erector set, a spirograph set, and a set of magnets. The Lincoln logs and the erector set started my interest in engineering. The spirograph set and the magnets started my interest in physics. I spent a lot of time thinking about magnets and imagining magnetic fields swirling around like the spirograph patterns. Here's a cute photo of me. At this age, about 6 years old, I was given a miniature kit for making a radio. It looked something like this. I had to put it together on a little piece of cardboard. It was amazing. It only had a few little parts, but working together, they allowed me to hear things over invisible radio waves. I spent a lot of time trying to imagine how that little radio worked. Here I am in 7th grade. Check out that long hair and the muscle shirt. At this age, I was reading all of the science books I could get my hands on. Here's another funny picture of me. This was from about 40 years ago when I was about 16. This is when my interest in physics really took off. I had read this book on gravity and black holes. However, I thought that the physics presented in the book had an error. So I went to a local Ben Franklin store and purchased about a half dozen of these little rubber balls. This is one of them that I still have. I used a variety of colored pens to draw arrows on them. The arrows were my way of figuring out how the electric and the magnetic fields moved over the black holes. So at the age of 16, before I even had my first physics class, I created my own theory on black holes. I wish there was more time to explain this, but in a nutshell, this led to my grand unification theory, which visually looks pretty much the same as what I was drawing on those balls. So, the grand unification of physics is based upon a black hole theory I started when I was about 16, back in 1977. Also, 1977 is the year when I discovered this. McGraw-Hill's Encyclopedia of Energy. I know this sounds weird, but I fell in love with that book. Back then, it was right in the middle of the 1970s energy crisis, and this book had all of the latest information on energy technologies. I read it from cover to cover. A number of the sections in the book talked about fusion energy. That really interested me. At the time, it seemed obvious to me fusion was the best way to solve the energy crisis. This is me when I was a senior in high school. That is when I took my first physics class. It was in the spring of 1979. In that class, when I first heard about Einstein's special theory of relativity, I immediately realized a critical thing about the physics of time was wrong. Also, this is when I decided to go to the University of Minnesota Institute of Technology to study physics and engineering. In that summer, after my senior year of high school, I got a subscription to a fusion energy magazine called Fusion. This was right after the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant accident. That accident made it obvious why fusion energy is better than fission energy. During high school and early college, I simply read about fusion. I didn't make any breakthroughs in that field at that time. In college, I knew I wanted to do something to help solve the energy crisis. As I studied physics and engineering, I decided I would like to manage a fusion energy research and development lab. The engineering program that I was in had a specific area of interest called engineering management, so I signed up for that. From 1973 to 1983, I spent a lot of time thinking about the physics of time. I was obsessed with the physics of time. Then, on March 23rd, 1983, I had my first real breakthrough in physics. On that day, I solved the mystery of time. When that happened, it was immediately obvious. There was no doubt about it. I'll never forget that. That was so exciting. Afterwards, I wrote a couple of books on time. I can't go into explaining my physics here. However, I probably should at least give you a feeling for what my breakthroughs were about. The first breakthrough was I solved the question, what is time? In essence, what I figured out was this. What we call time and what we call the speed of light are the same thing. There is a name for my physics on time. It is called the speed of light definition of time. This was a major breakthrough in physics. It really is a big deal. Physicists were making a huge mistake. Measuring motions is one of the most important things they do, and they were doing it wrong. You see, time is a motion that we use to measure all other motions. The motion physicists were using, the one they were calling time, was the wrong one. My solution was to redefine time to be the fastest known motion, the speed of light. If that sounds simple, it is. However, it changes traditional physics so much I've actually made a new type of physics. My second breakthrough was this. I was able to unify all of physics with one simple little equation. This equation. Don't worry, I'm not going to explain it here. The main thing to know is this. Everything in the universe is made of one thing, photons of light. Photons of light are zipping all around us at the speed of light. However, photons can do something that I would wager you haven't heard about before. In specific situations, photons can collide and stick to each other. I'm sure you're familiar with magnets. You are familiar with how magnets can stick to each other. That is due to just one field, the magnetic field. Photons have magnetic fields, and electric fields, and gravitational fields. When all three fields are aligned correctly, they create the strongest type of attraction in the universe. When photons stick to each other, they make hollow clumps of energy, kind of like this soap bubble. So, photons are the fundamental building blocks of elementary particles, atoms, molecules, all the solid stuff in the universe. Understanding how photons can stick together gives us a new, better understanding of physics in general and a better understanding of the details of fusion. There is a name for my grand unification theory. It is called the ball of light particle model. Again, this new physics is explained in this one simple, little, beautiful equation. In the field of physics, breakthroughs like this don't come any bigger. The grand unification of physics is huge. Let me end by saying this. My physics predicted a simple proof of physics experiment, and the experiment works as predicted. If this interests you and you'd like to know more, I've created a science movie and put it up here on YouTube, where of course you can watch it for free. Actually, it is a little bit more than a movie. It is kind of like a mini-series. It even has a theme song. I've also made a separate short, easy to understand video that explains what time is. It's only about 15 minutes long. I hope you watch it. Back to fusion. With the help of my physics, I solved the problem of fusion energy. At least I think I have. That is what I need to do next. I need to prove that I'm right. If my fusion power plant designs work as predicted, it'll be truly historical and will create a revolution in clean energy. My physics gave me an advantage. I understood why previous attempts at fusion failed, and I understood what was needed to make fusion work. So I got a patent and started a company. Let me summarize. I have made the necessary breakthroughs in physics, engineered and patented a new way to make fusion energy, and I've created a company, on paper at least, called Nordberg Fusion Technologies. My plan is to build a relatively inexpensive fusion research and development lab specifically designed for building and testing my designs. Now, we've reached the point in time to build and test my fusion power plant designs. So, I'm going to take the lead. This is my main patent. Over the next year, I need to trade some of the equity in my company for funding. I have a pitch deck. Over the next year, I will pitch investors. I will need to raise millions of dollars. I will use the equity investments to start building my fusion R&D lab. This is the layout. To save money, I will build it in stages. This is how the office will look like from the outside. The first milestone is a key proof of physics experiment. If it works, then the problem of fusion energy will be solved. I'll be able to get all the funding that I need. Then it's just a matter of build, test, and optimize. Since I started studying fusion energy back in 1977, other fusion researchers have been trying to build machines that look like this. My designs have a different geometry. The simplest design looks like this. It is the shape of 3 spheres lined up in a straight line. One of the bigger designs looks like this. It has a bunch of spheres lined up in a circle. My favorite designs look like this. Here the spheres are lined up in an oval shape. This is what the main design looks like. Spherical waves are critical. Of course, you don't know what a spherical wave looks like, so here's an animation of one. Anyway, my designs are based upon spherical waves. In my patent, I included this image from the Hubble Space Telescope. This is just one example of a spherical wave in nature. Lately, I've been using this graphic to introduce my designs. I estimate I can give the world its first working commercial fusion power plant in only 5 years. It could all happen really fast. So now comes one of my lifelong goals. I'm going to build the first working commercial fusion power plants. If you're not familiar with fusion energy, you should know that fusion is the silver bullet, the holy grail of clean energy. Fusion energy is going to save everyone a lot of money. Fusion energy is going to create massive amounts of new wealth. I'd love to go into the details, especially how my inventions could help with fresh water. But all that stuff is in my science movie on YouTube. In the earlier stages of my life, I was able to work alone. However, now all of the remaining steps require the help of other people. I need to find followers and backers, build a board of advisors, a board of directors, find and hire my team, find investors, build a lab, build, test, and optimize the designs, and finally license the designs to energy companies. That might sound like a lot to do, but it's not. It is just a fraction of what I've already accomplished. Getting to this point was the hard part. While there still is significant work to be done, the remaining business and engineering steps are nothing out of the ordinary. But clearly, I really can't go any further without getting the help from others. Crowdfunding is great. In the past, people that liked my story, people that wanted to help me, didn't know what to do, and I wasn't very good at asking them for help. Crowdfunding solves that problem. While crowdfunding makes it easy to invest in a project or a company, it also makes it easy to help a person. Sometimes it makes sense to help a person with a problem, like people that have expensive medical problems. Sometimes it makes sense to help a person with a mission in life. Sometimes it makes sense to invest in an individual, someone with special skills, especially in a person that can make a significant positive impact for the world. As I work towards building my fusion R&D lab, I trust that is how you will view me. If my physics, my work on fusion energy, or the other inventions I haven't talked about interest you, please make a donation to one of my crowdfunding campaigns. As I mentioned, in the earlier stages of my life, I was able to work alone. I really can't go any further without help. I'm very excited to get my story out. When it is finished, this will be, I believe, a true clean energy revolution. I'm very excited to invite you to join me doing something that could, in the end, make a huge difference. I'm very excited to invite you to share in one of my personal lifelong missions, creating the first working commercial fusion power plants. I'm very excited to invite you to follow my unusual story and perhaps to invest in me. Thank you.